Are you ready? Stand by.
Welcome to the Three Gun Show, brought to you by Armalite. This is episode 148, and I'm your host, Dave Hardman. My guest this week is Minnesota Three Gunner, Hawkeye Ignite Match Director, Hawkeye Syndicate podcaster, Adam Maxwell. We have a unique topic that I actually just kind of brought up on the spur of the moment when we were recording some match recon podcasts when I was in Minnesota, and that is deconstructing practical shooting. Before we get into the interview, a couple things. First, if you're going to the Rockcastle Pro-Am, be sure to stop by the Armalite Nexus booth on your downtime. Armalite will have scratch and dent items for sale, new rifle specials, and tuning by Armalite staff. I'll be hanging out there as well, so be sure to come by and say hey. Second, I've mentioned a few times that I started a Patreon account for the show. Patreon is a service that allows you as an individual to support me as a creator monetarily without a need for an intermediary like a network or something like that. Think of it as crowdfunding on a subscription basis. If you choose to support the Three Gun Show using Patreon, there are multiple levels from $1 per month to infinity, each with their own reward, and you can see those rewards at patreon.com/threegunshow. That's Patreon. One of those levels is a private Facebook group. Another gets you access to match recon podcasts and bonus content, such as what you're going to be listening to here today. And there's a bunch of other great rewards at other levels as well. The Match Recon podcasts are available through Patreon exclusively for the first 90 days for supporters of the Three Gun Show, and there are many of them out there already as well. If you choose to support the Three Gun Show using Patreon, you can do so at patreon.com/threegunshow. Now, on to this week's show. So this episode here is by popular demand, as in episode 146, just a couple ago. I mentioned this topic would be in the Patreon group and eventually on the main feed, but many of you wanted to hear this particular episode right away. So here we go. These questions are from Tim Ferriss's new book, Tools of Titans. Tim is an author, blogger, podcaster, and the main focus and subtitle of his new book is sharing, quote, the tactics, routines, and habits of billionaires, icons, and world-class performers. And a lot of those performers are athletes. The questions that Adam and I tackle in this episode is from a chapter on deconstructing sports and skills with questions. Once I read this chapter, I knew that these questions would be interesting and applicable to Three Gun, or basically practical shooting in general. Some examples of the deconstruction questions that we go over are: who is good at Three Gun despite being poorly built for it? Who's good at this that shouldn't be? Another one is, who are the most impressive lesser-known teachers? And my favorite, that I think is going to be a fun one coming up down the road, is if you were to train me for 12 weeks for a major match and had $1 million on the line, what would training look like? And then a follow-up question to that is, what if I trained for 8 weeks? So I think those are super interesting questions, and I think it's going to be fun to get multiple people's perspectives on those as we go down the line here. Like I mentioned before, I'll be asking many more of my guests these questions in the future and then publishing them on Patreon. So if you're into it and want to hear more, you can sign up there. Or if you're cool with waiting 90 days, no problem. It'll come on the main feed after 3 months. So show notes can be found at threegunshow.com/episode 148. Now enjoy Deconstructing Three Gun with Adam Maxwell. Adam.
Dave.
Got some questions for you, bro.
I got some answers for you.
Who is good at Three Gun despite being poorly built for it? Who is good at this that shouldn't be?
That everyone would know?
Doesn't necessarily need to be that way. It might help if you gave a context.
Who's good of it that really shouldn't? I would say in the traditional sense of the game, tell you what, watching videos, there's no plausible explanation for why Taron Butler is so good.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah. He has access, right, to all the toys and all the resources and all the, the guns and ammo and range and steel. But, like, he looks like he's about as athletic as a sack of potatoes. But can still burn down a match at will.
Is that because he
with
shreds?
or without sights? I don't know what
It's
it is.
true. Is that because he shreds?
Must be. Or he's raging.
But seriously, do you think that's it? Like, I use shreds. That's a vernacular that he uses, a verb that he uses. But do you think it's because he just shoots so stinking fast, or it's because his accuracy? Because gosh, he doesn't move like nearly as well as, say, like a Romero, right? A Rob Romero type person, but he moves a lot better than most of the dudes we shoot with.
Yeah. I don't know what you know, another one that I like that's maybe a better example is and I'm just drawing a blank on his name. Big Diesel.
Big Diesel. Jacob Betzworth.
Yes. I'm sorry, Jacob. I momentarily forgot your name.
That's okay. I forgot him by sight one time.
But Jacob Betzworth, he just
he flat gets after it, doesn't he?
He can go off like a stick of dynamite at a moment's notice.
Yep.
And once that train gets a roll,
dude, he's like I was just about to say he's like a freight train.
Just get the kids out of the way because he is coming through. When he gets that sparkle in his eyes and the smile across his face, he's like, "Oh, I got an idea."
Yeah. I tell you what, man, that guy is one happy MFer, right? I mean, he's having a good time all the time. Yeah, he's great. Who are the most controversial or unorthodox athletes or trainer in 3-gun? Why? What do you think of them?
This is a good question. I'm going to ask you to ask it again.
Are you stalling?
A little bit, but I want to make sure I get it.
Who are the most controversial or unorthodox athletes or trainers in 3-gun? Then the follow-up is why, and then what do you think of them? So you can take that first one. Most controversial or unorthodox athletes or trainers in 3-gun.
Jerry Micklick.
Really?
Yes. It's Jerry mentioned a concept in at least one of his foundational videos on his YouTube site. He did I can't remember I think it was Rifle 101.
Mm-hmm.
Where he explained practical rifle shooting on YouTube. And in there, he mentioned a concept that is sacrilege to almost anyone at the intermediate or advanced level. Currently in 3-gun. Because pretty much anybody who's super serious about this, if you talk to them, they will only shoot one rifle, one shotgun, and one pistol the whole season.
Okay.
That's all that they're infinity. They're
Atlas. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That's the only gun they're going to shoot. That's the only one they're going to practice with. The idea of switching divisions or switching guns within that division, picking a different rifle for a certain match. Nope.
Dude,
I have a match rifle, and that's it.
I told no one that I shot a brand new rifle and a brand new optic for the first time in this match.
Did you shred?
Yeah, I shredded. It was amazing.
Attaboy.
And new ammo.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
See, you're learning. But Jerry, I'm rubbing off on you. But Jerry mentioned the concept of cross training.
Yeah. Cross training is not something we do 3-gun specific. There's people that will say, "Yeah, go shoot some rimfire," but not anyone that talks about cross training on like a grand level.
Right, but in that video, he specifically showed completely different rifles that he shoots, or rifles similar to his match rifle, but configured in a very different way. He used different scope mounts. They're at like different heights.
Oh, different heights, really?
Yeah, so his match rifle has a typical, at least in that video, it had a typical, 1.5" cantilever offset mount. Mm-hmm. But then on one of his quote-unquote practice rifles, he put a riser in there on purpose so that the scope was actually much higher than normal. And his explanation of that was that he has to apply himself to the rifle. So he's working on himself, not necessarily that individual rifle. And so I would say that is very controversial to most dudes, because I do things like that all the time. All my friends think I'm crazy. Yep. As soon as the water freezes over up here and we set into like what we call indoor season, where we shoot USPSA matches at indoor ranges.
Right.
I go to single stack.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, it's major.
Yeah.
And it's capacity limited.
Oh, so now you have to get your hits.
Yeah. So now you got to hold on tight. And you have to plan an otherwise simple stage. I mean, you can hose those things with a limited gun, maybe hit one reload. Mm-hmm. Now you have to break it into 8s, like you do with a shotgun.
Oh, you brilliant bastard.
Yep. Or, so I shoot single stack. I shoot limb major. I have a 40 cal major gun. I don't have any cross-training shotguns at the moment, but I don't practice with my match shotgun. Ever.
Really?
Ever. No.
Huh.
Nope. Game day shotguns for game day. I have an M1 Super 90 that I put all my practice, all the dry fire reps on it, and the port isn't opened up. Stock port.
So you have to try really hard to load that port, and then the match gun seems easy?
Yes.
Weird.
So I would say...
go ahead and put you on the controversial list.
Yeah. Go ahead. Come at me, bro. But that's what I do. I have different rifles. I have different pistols, and I shoot them because the gear doesn't matter. It's how you apply yourself to the to the stage with the equipment that happens to be in your hand, and then changing it up from time to time. It's kind of like changing a workout routine too.
Yeah.
Like you kind of fall into a rut where if you apply the same things you're doing to the gun you shoot all the time, all of a sudden you switch guns, it feels different, and then it kind of resensitizes you to the subtleties of your grip. Mm-hmm. You'll find a weak spot in your grip or some ism that you do just because you switch, and so it feels different. So all of a sudden it's at the forefront of your consciousness again. Whereas the gun you shoot thousands and thousands of rounds through a season kind of becomes second nature. You don't really feel it there anymore.
Right.
So
interesting.
Yeah. How's that?
Not where I thought you'd go, but really glad we went there. Who are the most impressive lesser-known teachers?
Most impressive lesser-known teachers. Frank Proctor.
Frank Proctor. I say that because I'm trying to place him in Florida, right?
I believe he's Arkansas.
Oh, Arkansas. Okay. Why Frank Proctor?
Because I really like his concept. His material really spoke to me. But I think he lives in this purgatory between tactical and competitive.
Yeah, because he is someone that's been
too competitive to be tactical.
My tactical buddies.
Yeah,
you gotta go take a.
But he's too tactical to be a competitor.
Huh. Okay.
But his philosophies apply to both. But because he is neither an in-your-face tactical guy appealing to the masses of the tactical market, and he's not burning down 3-gun matches on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
He's not really on the competitive shooters, radar screen as much, at least in my perception.
Mm-hmm.
He's a big enough name that I heard about him, but
Mm-hmm.
other people have, and he put out videos and stuff. But he's kind of in between. When you talk about trainers and whatnot, his name isn't one that seems to come up like Chris Costa.
Yeah.
Everyone knows who Chris Costa is. Everyone knows who Robert Vogel is.
Right.
Or,
Gabe Suarez and Ben Steger.
yeah, those are guys who, when you think of competitive instructors, that name's going to come up in the first 10.
Right.
Frank's won't. Or I don't see that happening anyway, as, a snapshot in time. I hope he becomes more popular because I really like what he teaches. But, I think Frank Proctor would be my answer to that.
Okay. What makes you different?
From
In 3-gun, in the context of 3-gun. While you're thinking about that, I'm going to throw out something real quick. Lesser known, impressive teachers. I would say many local master class shooters that you probably never heard of. I feel like there's a lot to learn on the local level of USPSA between masters and grandmasters that aren't necessarily competitive on a national level.
What makes me different? This question is purposely vague,
Yes, it is.
but we're talking in context of 3-gun.
Oh, yeah.
Makes me different. I'm still in it for sandlot baseball.
Yeah?
Yep. I'm still just a dude who, while I'm fortunate enough to be professionally immersed in firearms and shooting sports industry right now,
Mm-hmm.
I remember what real work is and what real jobs are, and this isn't it. So I'm still just a guy, and I still do this because I love it. And while I do get to put on events and try, grow the sport, or I do get to go places, I get to represent companies, things like that. I get to participate in national level matches and shoot the pro series and things like that. I'm still in it because I like to shoot guns. And when it all gets down to it, after make ready, everything that happens after make ready is still just for me. And if there's a prize, it's for me, and I want to win, but I'll accept a prize if there's a prize associated with winning, but I would still gladly be a champion for free. And that's what makes me different. That's what makes me dangerous.
Cue the Michael Jackson music. Who trained you or influenced you?
Nobody.
Nobody? Not even Rob Romero and Jansen Jones?
Yeah,
Maybe a little bit of Noveski action?
I've heard a lot of people's stories that go along with this question. So I can't say that somebody brought me to the range and took me under their wing. It taught me everything I know, or I went to this class, I went to that class. I've never been to a formal class. I've never been to a formal shooting class ever. In context of action shooting, I did take a trap shooting class in association with a youth hunting camp I went to when I was very young. A hunter safety camp. There's an education program, summer camp you could go to, and they brought in a trap instructor. But I literally got into action shooting because I saw it on TV, and I wanted to do it. My parents weren't into it. My parents weren't even really that cool with handguns.
Mm-hmm.
I had to wait till I was 21 to really do it because they were, they're always supportive of what I wanted to do. They still are, but they weren't. I certainly was not a 12-year-old kid being handed all the tools, and we're going to major matches.
On Infinity?
Yeah, no. No, I bought my first Glock. I bought my first AR. I had zero interest in AR-15s before 3-gun.
Mm-hmm.
I bought my first AR-15 to shoot 3-gun.
Sweet.
Because I had a shotgun and a pistol, and that was what I was missing. It just came with it. So everything, so I can't say that I had a mentor or somebody who brought me along, but I had a thirst for the knowledge that I picked up things from people along the way. So, Brian Payne is a name that you've heard a lot as you've come to our community here. He's a very influential person in the 3-gun scene up here in the upper Midwest. If you were to ask Brian Payne, or even when I joke about this with him, he's like, "Oh, I didn't teach you anything." I was like, "Yeah, you did. You just didn't know it. I was watching you."
Mm-hmm.
But, you picked up a little tip or something, or he threw something out there, and maybe even just said it as an offhand comment in frustration or whatever, but I snatched it out of the air and took it. So everything I learned about 3-gun, I got from watching other people, watching things that are put out on YouTube or on the internet, and then just one piece at a time, observing those who were and are better than me, and using it for myself, and then also being realistic about where my weaknesses are, and then trying to isolate a way to get better at those. So I wouldn't say any one person or any specific person taught me how to 3-gun. I learned what I know about 3-gun is an aggregate of many people.
Yeah.
And my observations of them, both putting it out intentionally and just watching them.
So if you go on the second part of that, which is influenced you, gotta say the Noveski DVDs.
Absolutely. I would say, yeah, Romero and Jones heavily influenced my early years of 3-gun for sure. I watched both of the videos they put out a lot.
Have you trained others to shoot 3-gun?
Yes.
Have they replicated your results?
Not yet.
Is there anyone that stands out in your mind that you think is an up and comer? You don't need to name names, but
yeah, there are a few. My philosophy on coming up in the sport is to shoot matches, not practice. Get on like this training regimen,
right?
My philosophy is to shoot as many matches as possible, and if there's not a 3-gun match to shoot today, but there's a USPSA match, I'm shooting USPSA today. Even though they have fault lines at their safety tables, which is dumb.
Have fault lines in their safety tables?
Yes, but that's a whole nother thing.
Did I tell you what Rob Romero told me about shooting?
No.
So when I was going to have him on the podcast, our conversation was about 3-gun Nation.
Mm-hmm.
And he said he didn't want to talk about training. He didn't want to talk about shooting.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I can't tell you how to train. I can't tell you how to get better. All I do is zero my guns and shoot local matches.
And now I do the same. About a year ago, well, maybe 2 years ago now, I came to the crossroads that there's only so many hours in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to make the choice between dry fire. I had a very aggressive dry fire regimen for many years. I had to choose between dry fire and going to the gym. And I chose going to the gym.
Because chicks don't dig dry fire?
I don't care. I felt like the net gain of being a healthier, stronger athlete was more important than dry fire reps in my basement. And so I felt like the amount of matches I could participate in would maintain, or I wasn't going to get further down the line with a dry fire regimen, but I would get farther down the line being a more aggressive athlete. So, I will say that I agree with Romero's view on that even before I heard that he said it. So now that I heard he said it, now I believe it even more because he's my spirit animal.
Confirmation bias. What are the biggest mistakes and myths that you see in 3-gun training?
Biggest mistakes and myths that I see in 3-gun training.
And then follow-up to that would be, what are the biggest wastes of time?
Biggest waste of time? Biggest waste of time in 3-gun training is getting your buddies together and, quote-unquote, setting up a stage. That's what people always want to do. They want to we'll get together and we'll set up a stage and we'll train. No, that's dumb. So dumb.
What?
Because the point of setting up a stage is to digest a stage, to plan it. But if you set it up yourself, you already envisioned in your mind how you're going to shoot it.
Right.
So there's that. And you're going to burn whatever amount of ammo you had to shoot that stage very quickly for potentially not a whole lot of gain. You may learn how to shoot that stage really well, but you won't have learned any specific part of that stage. And if you're all, if you're gathering with your buddies, are you gathering with your buddies to train, or are you gathering with your buddies because you want to hang out with your buddies and shoot guns? I find training for me brings out my introverted side. There are lots of people who want to go, they're like, hey, next time you're going to the range, hit me up, man.
So I can hold your hand and lend you my guns?
Well, not even. It's just like when I am training, I am not a fun person to be around. Okay? Get out the tissues because I'm working on my issues. And if you want to shoot, then there's a bay over there. All right? I got 80% of the time and 70% of the ammo that I need to work on this list of things that I want to work on. And I don't want to expend any energy on social, etiquette. Or I shot my thing, or I shot my group at 200 yards. Or have you shot yours? Is it okay if we go look at the target now? No, I'm going to shoot mine. I'm going to go down and look at it. I'm going to pace it up again. I'm going to make the adjustment. And we're going to shoot it. And, and if somebody else needs to use that bay too, you're in the way,
Yeah.
And so it brings out my introverted side, and I'm going out to work on my stuff. And it's not like I'm doing it in secret or anything like that. It's just that ain't got time for nobody. And so that's how it is. And the people in this area who are at the level that I would want to train with or practice with, my friends who shoot at the intermediate or advanced level, they're on their own schedules. They're married with kids, working 9-to-5 jobs.
Right.
I'm single and I work retail, second shift. So when I go out to practice, I'm practicing at 10 a.m. on a Thursday.
Right.
Where are you? Well, you're at your office. When they're available after work, I'm at work. So it's hard to line up with them. So that further pushes me into this kind of isolated thing that I do. As far as that, so the whole getting together and setting up a stage, that's the worst thing you can do. So, a waste of time.
If you were to train me for 12 weeks for a major match and had $1 million on the line, what would that training look like?
Where is this match that pays out $1 million?
I'm paying you $1 million.
Oh, you're paying.
If I win this match.
You're paying me $1 million if you win this match?
Mm-hmm.
Ask me again because I got sidetracked in the
By the $1 million?
Yeah, it's like that's not real. I lost sight of your real question,
YOLO.
which is if there was infinite resources.
If you were to train me for 12 weeks for a major match and had $500,000 or had $1 million on the line, what would the training look like?
What would the training look like?
Like 12 weeks from now, I got a major match.
Nothing else on your plate.
Nothing else to do. And I'm like, hey, Max.
Dave.
Buddy, I want to win this friggin' match. I want to win in TO, TAC Ops.
Mm-hmm.
What do I do?
Well, it depends on what match it is. Now, again, we're going to throw out the name that you've heard a lot, Brian Payne.
Hang on. Let me look at my calendar and see what's 12 weeks away.
So, when the first major match I ever went to was Missouri, or is the Midwest 3-Gun Championship, which no longer exists. It was in Missouri. I was there.
Is that the CMMG match?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't remember the context, but I was kind of like anybody. Like, at your local level, you think you're at X, and then you get here and like, oh my God, what's going on?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, where did all these guys come from?
Holy crap.
So I was talking to Brian, and we were, the scores from the first day had been posted. This was pre-practice score. So
they were like scribed on a chalkboard.
So some nerd with a pencil like put all these together, and then it was a list that got posted on a board. Like they printed it out and posted it.
I've been there.
And this is where you took all your carbon copies and you confirmed what your times were. Like, oh my gosh, they missed a decimal place by 2
Yeah,
zeros.
yeah, I remember that.
And
those were terrible days.
so I forget how we got on the topic, but anybody who ever shot the Midwest 3-Gun Championship knows that they had this like scaffolding tower. So it was like a 1-story, it was 10 feet off the ground, and you jumped up there and you had to shoot some long-range targets or whatever. And we got talking because Brian has a son who's in the AMU, one Tyler Payne, who he was fairly new to the unit at the time, I think. But I kind of got on the topic of like, well, what do those guys do, or what, I had the same illusions that everybody does. Like they have unlimited ammo and they just go out and burn piles. They shoot until they're knee deep in brass, and then they like go to get a drink of water, move over 10 feet, and then make another pile of brass. And then they come by with a skid loader and they scrape it all up. And he's like, well, that's not really how it is at all. He's like, well, if the AMU was going to come to this mat, he said, well, first he's like, they do a lot of instruction and blah, blah, blah. I don't pretend to be an expert on the AMU, so if any of you AMU guys are listening and I'm saying things in error, I apologize. But at the time, he said if AMU was coming to this match, about a week in advance, they would say, their unit commander would say, you have 3 days to get ready for the Midwest 3-Gun Championship. You can do whatever you want. Go. So they will block out time out of their instruction schedule to get ready for this match.
Mm-hmm.
They would say, or they would know that this scaffold was going to be here. So they would develop a drill. They would figure out that, well, what wins this drill or wins this stage is getting up on top of that platform and getting a good shot. So they would, all day long, take one shot at the pistol plate rack at the bottom, run to the top of the stairs, take one shot with the rifle, and then reset and do it again. They would isolate that. They wouldn't replicate that stage,
right,
and shoot the whole thing. They would isolate parts of it and drill on it. And so that's kind of one of the early inspiration we were talking about. My quote unquote training philosophy is that they would isolate the thing that you're not good at and use as little ammunition as possible to work on that skill until they had it mastered. Then they would move on to the next thing. So if we were going to, hypothetically, train to win a match, which you would...
12 weeks away is Generation 3 gun.
Generation 3. Well, I've never been to Generation 3 guns, so that's not going to help you much.
So it's a natural terrain match.
Ooh. So it's like every other match on the schedule? I mean, that's the only kind of matches. I don't know. Somewhere there's 3-gun matches in tennis courts that nobody likes, but I haven't been to those.
You're getting surly.
Maybe I just I've fought the battles on the.
Well, you know what
natural
this is. This is 5 days on the range, 2 days of RO shoot, 3 days of being an RO, and you've just got a case of the fuckets.
No. I'll be like this on Wednesday too, and I was like this on the Wednesday before. But so it comes down to, well, what's that match about? And what's Dave's skill set? Mm-hmm. What is Dave not good at that Dave's going to have to be good at this match?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's pick a match that you've been to then.
Mm-hmm. So,
Trigun.
We just shot Trigun?
Rewind 12 weeks ago. Call you up. Adam, I want to win Trigun.
Step 1.
TAC Ops.
Step 1, buy an SBR. No. Trigun is going to force you to do the thing you don't want to do.
Okay.
So they're going to put you, at some point, they're going to put you in a small, awkward box, be it a car or some pallet tunnel that they made, or they're going to put you in an improvised shooting position.
Mm-hmm.
So, first thing to do would be to try and think of strange shooting positions or strange shooting props. A few weeks ago at the Trekker match here, I was trying to figure out something awkward for people to use. So I found we have a big piece of culvert drainage pipe, the big black plastic thing. It's about I'll say 24 inches in diameter. And I put it in like a divot in the sand, and I didn't stake it down so it could roll.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got ridges on it, and it can roll. It's at a weird height. You can't brace your magazine into it.
Yeah.
So it would be like going out into the countryside and be like, oh, well, here's this rock. How could I brace against this rock? Or, where's the weirdest place I can cram myself into and try to shoot from? I would work on that. I shot an SBR at this match because I knew they had 3 cars waiting to go out on stages. So, the odds of having to shoot out of the back of a Durango were pretty good. And that's kind of an experiment I'm working on too. But, I know the positional stuff is going to come up. They're gonna put you somewhere where you want to go prone, but you can't go prone. So you gotta kneel or something like that. So So to be good at the Trigun, you have to be good at the awkward positions. So that's one thing we would work on. Another thing, there's going to be a long jungle run somewhere. So
it's going to be shotgun.
Yeah, it's going to be shotgun. And so you gotta have your loads down. You got to be able to carry a lot of shotgun ammunition and be able to load from all those weird places that now you have shotgun ammunition attached to. Because if you drop them or they fall off, they're not really any good to you. So there would be that. I would also work on, and this is something that I haven't actually done, but I've desired to do, would be to work on some cognitive memory exercises in your mind. Because on those jungle runs or on some of these stages, they mess with your mind, your memory of where things are, or have I shot this already?
Yeah, and then you run by a target that's hidden behind a friggin'
Yeah.
tree.
So the whole visualization and memorization, like keeping things clear in your head, we would work on that. Because both for the jungle runs, and we actually have, now that you've met him, we have what we call Jomar stages.
Mm-hmm.
Jomar specifically, we don't really have a good example of one here to play with, but like in the past, he's done things like painted 3 arrays of targets different colors,
Mm-hmm.
and then there was a box. He rigged up a blind box that you had to reach into and draw out a colored ball and shoot those targets.
Oh, okay.
And then so you would draw that ball, run to the line, shoot those targets, run back, draw another color, shoot those targets, run to the line, shoot another color. Things like that. Or he's notorious for limited round count. So they'll put a bunch of targets out there, and you'll have either more targets than ammo. So you have to either get A's or doubles with your, you have to get A's on paper, or you have to get doubles with the shotgun.
Mm-hmm.
And, or, so things like that. So he'll have a stage where you have 12 rounds of shotgun, 12 rounds of pistol, and 12 rounds of rifle only. And you have to decide which, are you going to try and shoot A's on do you really need to shoot that one twice? What if you miss? What if you miss something else and you need that bullet to neutralize another target on a shot you messed up on? He's notorious for those. The fine accuracy be something, shooting rifles with clays.
Yeah.
If you were getting ready, I bet if you come back next year, I bet you shoot some clays with your rifle.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah,
it was.
That was new this year.
I talked to a lot of people that really ate their lunch, but we shot a bunch of those in Colorado.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very popular out west.
Yeah, so I knew what to do for those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of people here have never seen those before.
It's a great way to force rifle accuracy or test rifle skills when you're limited by distance on a bay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we are here. So we can't put the targets further away, so we have to make them smaller. Mm-hmm. That's absolutely true.
Mm-hmm.
So to get ready for the Trigun, maybe things like that. There's a lot of positional work.
What do you mean by positional work?
The awkward shooting positions.
Okay. Then once you shoot under stuff, they try to force you to shoot under stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing where your rifle hits sideways is important. Sideways unsupported.
Yeah, the sideways rifle dope. I would, again, if we have 12 weeks, I would definitely know the inverted rifle.
All right. Okay, so 12 weeks I need to work on rifle positions. I need to work on shooting clays.
Shooting really small 5x5s with your pistol.
Right. Yeah.
They do a lot of those. It's kind of an awkward question for me because that's just normal. That's what we do. They do that at a club match here every month too.
Right.
Not on this scale, but for me, I know the Trigun because I know all the guys who put it on.
Well, I think the point of that. Well, so that's a good question for you then. So I think the point of that question is how would you design a training regimen? Like day one.
Oh yeah.
We're hitting
Okay.
the range.
Okay. Well, so
Day two.
Whenever I've taken on clients before who wanted me to instruct them, I don't have a curriculum yet, and I probably should develop one because it kind of comes around once in a while. But I try to get to the point of, well, what led me to where I am?
Mm-hmm.
How do I figure out what I'm not good at, and then work on that, and then we go into the next thing. So a guy locally here asked me that a few weeks ago. He wanted me to do some one-on-one with him, I was like, okay, what do you want to learn? And he rattled out, he kind of word vomited all the things that you could like, all the things that would attract someone to a major match. Oh yeah, I want to work on long range and quad loading and this, that,
transitions.
Yeah, target transitions. And I'm like, oh, okay, well that's great. Long range is a waste of time here because of what we're allowed to do as members here. We're not allowed to go in front of those tubes and shoot at steel. We just aren't. So I was like, if you only have 2 hours the first time, what do you want to work on? You know, if you can't work on all of those things, if you have to pick one, what do you want to work on? Transitions. Okay. Well, let's work. You know, I pulled some Frank Proctor transition drills that he does, some cadence shooting stuff. We worked on cadence shooting. We start up close, start pushing the time until you can't make the time, and then you back up. You work on it again, and you back up. And then you'll get to the point where, okay, my cadence shooting is good to go. Now I need to get into positions. Okay, well, let's set up a transition, you know, set up a gun box, you know, so you run up to it, pick up your gun, take a shot, you know, and then move on to the next thing. So I don't subscribe to the theory that we could set up a regimen and on day one we're going to do this with a roadmap to the future.
But like day one is eval day.
Eval, what do we need to work on? We'll work on that thing, and then we'll find the next thing we need to work on. And I think that is the breadth of work that spans a career, quote unquote, in the sport. You can't do it for 12 weeks and have a result. I think it's an ongoing thing with yourself as an athlete that, you know, here I am today, here's a weakness that I see. So I'm going to work on this in the short term. And then at some point, that's not going to be a weakness anymore, and a new one is going to come to the forefront of my mind, and I'm going to work on it until a new one comes to the forefront of my mind. I'm going to work on it, and you just kind of keep juggling. And as time goes on, the things that come to the forefront of your mind are smaller and smaller and smaller things.
I have no further questions.
That's the end of the list, huh?
Yeah. Hey, before you take off, check out the show notes at 3gunshow.com/episode 148 for links to things that we discussed in the podcast, including Tim Ferriss's new book, Tools of Titans, which is where I got these questions. You can also sign up on Patreon as a 3 Gun Show supporter, or you can purchase your own 3 Gun Show logo tee, which are also available, and now in ladies' sizes as well. As always, this podcast is brought to you by Armalite. Armalite has allowed me to get special pricing for listeners on their line of 3-gun rifles, both the 13.5 and the 18-inch, as well as their competition handguards, gas blocks, and tunable muzzle brakes. I just got a new shipment of muzzle brakes in as well. My last one went pretty fast, but I do have some now. So if you're in the market for components to build a rifle or a complete rifle of your own, email me, dave@3gunshow.com, and I will hook you up. And I'm back on the road, traveling the country and bringing the good times back to you in podcast form. I will have all of this Armalite gear with me at matches for you to check out. So when you see me at a match, just ask, and I'll be happy to show you. You can even shoot mine if you like. And a little bonus here, I'll be hanging out with Jeremy Gresham of SAC at the Armalite Nexus booth/tent thingy at Rock House Pro-Am. So come by and say hey, and high five or something like that. Quick reminder that if you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, Podcast Addict, or wherever you get your podcast content, so you will always get the very latest. Also, check out the Hawkeye Syndicast that Adam and Mark are putting together. It's a really good one. Thank you so much for downloading, listening, and subscribing to the show. I'm Dave Hartman, and I'll see you on the range.
If you are finished, unload, show clear.